Hi everybody, my name is Jo with Jo Wise Leadership, and today we're going to be having a chat about creativity. So I'm just waiting. Facebook is just doing its little thing, bring a few people on. So we'll just wait until a few people come on and then we'll get started. I actually had a creative idea this morning that I would come to the park on the way to an appointment that I had, and I would sit in the park and it'd be lovely and sunny and it'd be really comfortable. And interestingly enough, hasn't quite worked out that way. I think it's about to rain. I'm bloody freezing and it's really uncomfortable sitting on this seat. So there you go, that's my creativity for today. So good morning, welcome. Thanks for coming on this morning. I wanted to speak about the creative process this morning because this happens. Hi Helen, nice to see you. This is something that happens, and I notice it quite a bit happening with myself, and also when I speak to my clients, it's something that happens, and I'm reading about it as well. So, interestingly enough, what happened last night is, thanks for the thumbs up. I was having a chat with Cam, my boyfriend, and we were having a bit of a talk about, oh yes, Helen's going to be creative. Rachel's very creative. Nice to see you too, Rach. Last night, Kev and I were having a bit of a chat, and we were talking about a few things that I'm doing in my business at the moment, and we just sort of started bouncing a few ideas off around, and sort of started building on a couple of the ideas of things that I'm already doing at the moment in my career, and we were, having a bit of fun, and it was light, and we came up with some really, really good ideas. Good morning, Tatiana. Nice to see you. And there was this one particular idea that just... when we started talking about it, I felt this energy move through my body, right through my body, like a physical wave. And it's like it was really electric and exciting. And, it was not only... in my body, but it was like I could see it. It was like everything around me. And this always happens when I'm in a really, really creative mode, Good morning, Steph. Everything around me suddenly got brighter. We were in the house, in the kitchen, and all the colours in the kitchens got brighter, and everything became more concise looking and intricate and so on. So this is something that happens when I move into really, really easy, really fully move into my creative zone. And I'd be really interested to know what happens with you, because I know everybody that's on the call that I know is very, very creative. So I would love to know what happens to you when you move into your creative zone, because I think it's really important for us to understand what happens so that we can identify when we're there as well. So all this excitement last night, and of course it was before bedtime, so, there was all this excitement. I was writing down notes and dreaming all this stuff, and we got into bed and my brain's going zit, 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 zit. And then, fell asleep. And then this morning when I woke up, I usually wake up about 5:30 in the morning, and I woke up at 5:30 and instantly all the energy had gone out of that creative idea, and it had been completely replaced by fear, by all of the things, all of the reasons that this wasn't a good idea after all. Every single thing that could go wrong, and even the things that couldn't go wrong, but I was making them into things that could go wrong. The energy in my body was really heavy. It had completely transformed. There was, and all of that stuff. It was so interesting because obviously I'd been asleep for a lot of time as well. And Rachel says it's exactly what happens to her as well. Yeah, and we're not alone. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of other people going, yeah, and I know Steph has had this as well, because I speak. Oh, Steph's saying, when it can feel like I sort of come out of my house, I clean it up, and then I'm consumed by it, and then get back into the space and block everything else out. Yeah, absolutely. So it's really interesting. So there's all the excitement of the creativity. It's the best thing in the world. It's like the world's best idea. Everything's going to, this is going to be the answer, and so on. And then, interestingly, it can turn pretty quickly to fear at some stage. And what's actually happening in that space is it is just fear. So whether you recognize it as fear or you recognize it as, a sign that this is a really bad idea, or, a sign from, the universe or whatever that it's a bad idea that you're getting these fears, just allow it to space some interest in you and to what you tell yourself when you go into this cycle. When you've got the great, you're up on the, oh, it's exciting, it's creativity, it's amazing, and then you head down. Because this can happen like with me last night, this was an idea of building on a business idea that I've currently been working on already. It can be like people, some of the people on the call and people that I'm working with at the moment are coming up with really fantastic business ideas that they can implement in their business. There's one woman that I'm working with whose business has been taken over, and she's coming up with some really, really amazing stuff and getting lots of pushback from the organisation, but she's keeping going and that's her creativity comes through coming up with these great business ideas in her department. It might be in a meeting, where everyone's bouncing around some ideas and you come up with some really great strategies around something else that you could approach, or it could be like some of my clients that are doing a full-time gig and running a part-time business on the side. So it could be, the part-time stuff that gets the creativity, or the full-time work that gets the creativity. But wherever it is, it might be around work, it might be around hobbies, it might be around the way you parent, it might be around the way that you love, it could be around absolutely anything. But what's actually happening in that space is it's not necessarily a sign from the universe or God or whatever you believe out there. It's, saying that this is a bad idea. It's just fear. It is absolutely plain and simple, just fear. And what those fears are about is it's about, we all have, because of scenarios that have happened to us when we're kids, or we've been told by somebody at some stage that we're not good at something. So we've all had examples of where this have happened. Maybe we've been made a fool of. There's plenty of stories around of people that have done, some creative work or some art at school, and they've been told that they've done a really crap job, and so that they therefore believe that they can't do it. Interestingly enough, last night I was talking to my son. He's 7. And he said to me, we were talking about school and how well he's going at school, and he said to me, there's one thing that I'm not very good at, and and he's upset about it. And I was like, oh, what's that, sweetheart? And he said, oh, it's my drawing. He said, so I know I'm really good at writing, I know I'm great at reading. He said, but my drawing. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And so he said, when I draw people, I draw square people with square body and square head and square legs, like Lego. That's what he's obsessed with. And I said, okay, and so do you think that that's not great? And he said, no. He said, other people are drawing bodies that look like people. And like he said, with arms like this and skin and, a nose that looks like a nose rather than just a dot. And it was really interesting because I remember reading a book, I think it was Brene Brown, one of Brene Brown's book, where she talks about when kids are at school at ages from 7 to 8, that's when they start to have awareness that other kids are doing things differently. And the example she gives is that in her book is that, kids of 7 and 8 start to realise that, they might draw a blue horse with 6 legs and 4 heads and, a unicorn and, some sparkles on it. And then they realise that there's someone in the class, Jenny over there, that actually is drawing a horse that looks like a horse actually looks. And then they start to create that theirs is not good enough. And so it was interesting having a chat with Marley about it last night, because I was saying to him, well, everybody does things differently, and, just because your body doesn't look like a body doesn't mean that that's not your interpretation. And of course I'm doing all of this stuff, and he's ultimately wants to be able to. Turns out he actually wants to be able to draw a person like a person, so I'll help him with that as well. But it's interesting because that starts now. He's 7. And he already started to say in the conversation, I'm not good at drawing. And I was like, no way, Buster, you're not getting away with that. That's one of the things that we do together, and he loves doing. So just because you think, someone told you you're not good at it, or you've made up that you're not good at it, doesn't mean you can do it. So that's kind of when we start to tell ourselves that our creativity doesn't work. And they've moved forward, like I'm 45 now, and I've got plenty of those examples that happened to me at school as well. Some I remember really well and some I don't at all, but they all created these fears. The way I interpreted those situations at the time, whether that's the way they were meant or not, the way I interpreted it at the time, has led to now, years later, me having a fear around creativity. And those fears are like a fear around failing. It could be a fear around like it not being perfect, which with my creative ideas, that's absolutely going to come into play. Maybe we're going to be laughed at, like we were at school maybe, because in the process of creativity, there is a huge amount of risk and uncertainty. And we all have a need for certainty every single day. It's like a survival need that we have. So when we start to work within the creative zone, whether that's about a meeting or it's around, HR or procurement or the way you can approach a problem at work or something that's more traditional creative like, drawing or a hobby or something like that, then these fears are going to feel really real. And at that time, it's really, really easy for us to go, well, clearly this is not the right idea for me, because if it was the right idea for me, then it'd feel really good. But it doesn't feel good. Creativity rarely feels good from zero to the end, because there's generally the fear that comes up. And Steph says in our session the other day, my creativity vibrations are on high, so thank you. Yeah, awesome. That's fantastic, Steph. And that was something that Steph needed to bring out in her a little bit more, because she's been dabbling in that area anyway. So it's really nice. So that's great, Steph. Fantastic. So just have an awareness around, okay, one, when the creative ideas come. And for me, it's been really important to get awareness around the physical, like what physically happens to me in my body. It feels the energy coming up through my body. I get excited. It's like, everything is possible. Now, during that time, I get down as many ideas as I can, and I write as much success criteria as I can, as far as what would make this a success, what would make it work, what are the details about it, as well as the big picture stuff. Because that means that when I go into stage 2, crapola fear stage, and I'm telling myself this would never work, it's a bad idea because of all of these rah-rah bullshit reasons, then I can go back and look at the information and go, aha, remember, these is all the reasons that it will work. And sometimes they can feel a little bit like, well, the negative are way higher than the positive or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the wrong decision to go ahead with it. So get an awareness of what happens when you're in creative mode. Have an awareness of what you start telling yourself when you go into the fear zone, the fear zone, and then continue to ask yourself, because sometimes we just need to take a deep breath to breathe through it and then do it anyway. And the breathing through it's been really important for me, because I woke up this morning sort of halfway through these thoughts of why what we were talking about last night was such a bad idea, and I recognized it straight away this time, and I really, really breathed through it. And then I sort of thought to myself, you know what, this is a great idea, and I'm definitely going to go through with it, even if it definitely isn't going to happen today, because I've got a bit of a lighter day today. But it's definitely going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. So that's something that you'll be seeing from me soon. So I'll talk about it a little bit later. But let me know how you go with this. Have a willingness to have an awareness of the good, and then the fear that will possibly hold you back from this, and then allow yourself to breathe through it. And also call yourself out on the negative. It's one of the things that I do with my clients a lot, is we can tell ourselves, thank you so much for all the love. We can quite often make up the reasons. The fear is so creative with the ways it will tell us that this won't work. So I will quite often be asking myself, really? Is that really the case? If I really do that thing, will everybody in my world not like me anymore? Or will my whole world fall apart? Because it's very rarely that traumatic. I've got to go because my phone has 3% left. So that was very close, and it is about to rain any minute. Have an amazing day. Get creative, because I know every single person on this call, and that will watch it later, has very, very creative bones in their body. So get out there and use it, because we all have something to add to the world. Every single one of us has our own genius in whatever way that is, to get out there into the world. And I think that it's our responsibility, particularly as women, to make sure that we're getting it out there, because we change the world. Have a beautiful day, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye. great. Thank you, Steph. Have a great day, everybody.